Hello, this is part, I don't know, but of me explaining why I'm running for governor and for the earth. And we're almost through the part where I explain why we're systematically destroying meaning. And if there's any takeaway from these past 4 weeks of me talking about all the things that we're destroying and why it's horrible, which may have been something you already thought about or knew, it's not just that we're destroying things, it's that the scope and spread of the things that we're destroying is very pervasive through pretty much every facet of society. This week I'm going to talk about agriculture, and that it's not a problem that we can optimize away by saying let's get rid of carbon emissions. It's a systemic issue that's fundamentally based on our economic and political systems and institutions that have been globally distributed. So we'll get to that more, but for now we're going to talk about agriculture. So about 90% of the topsoil of the earth is at risk of being degraded. Topsoil is very important. That's how we grow food. And in the United States, we have hundreds of millions of acres of monoculture cropping, which erodes the topsoil. If you look at prairie land and you compare it in the Midwest to land that has been used for agriculture and the prairie land has been conserved, there's meters of height difference because the topsoil was eroded. Topsoil, the quality of our topsoil is also globally on average about 26% less carbon content. Carbon is what we eat, and if it doesn't have carbon content, it doesn't really grow food. And there's so many things I can talk about with agriculture that are just not correct. So another example is that our current agricultural system is we dump synthetic fertilizers on our crops, and this was the so-called green revolution, is when we figured out how to turn nitrogen into fertilizer from the air, because the air is about 70% nitrogen, and this allowed us to grow a lot more food really quickly. Well, there's consequences to that, because what it does is now your crops are reliant on getting their nitrogen from something that's poured on them rather than from a balance, a nice ecosystem where fungi decompose old organic matter and turn it into bioavailable nutrients for the microbes, and there's a diversity of life. Instead, we've cut out all of this diversity and instead replaced it with very few kinds of bacteria that will just eat up all the resources that we dump on it very quickly. And so then when you stop doing that, the crops don't grow anymore because they don't have, that ecosystem has been destroyed. So what the UN says is that by 2050, we are at risk of losing 90% of our topsoil. And what this means is that we need to find new ways of doing agriculture that are truly sustainable. But the broader question is, why are we doing this, right? Why are we destroying our soils? Farmers can tell that this is not a sustainable system. They know it's very fragile. They know that when rain comes, their soil washes away because the roots of the crops that they're planting are either not there because they're not using cover crops, or it's shallow because they're only allowed to grow for a year and then they're dug up and tilled, and then when we till the soil, it creates loose soil that is easily washed away, and there's no diversity of crops to hold anything together. There's only the corn or soy or what have you. On top of that, there's nine species of plants that are responsible for 2/3 of all agricultural land, and so that's a problem. But yeah, so like we know that this is a problem, but why are we still doing it? That is what we're going to cover in the coming weeks.